My name is Darren, I'm 42, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. My wife Lena, 39, and I had been together for 14 years, married for 6, with 2 wonderful kids in 2 modest but comfortable homes, one near the city for weekdays and one up north by the lake for weekends and summers. On paper, it was idyllic. A balanced life, predictable in the best ways. I work in IT, mostly remote, tucked into my home office with dual monitors and noise-canceling headphones. Lena worked part-time as a dental assistant, which gave her a flexible schedule and allowed her to spend time with the kids. She was always meticulous about routines, morning coffee with a splash of oat milk, yoga by the window, and family dinners, no matter how chaotic the day had been. But a few months ago, small things started to shift. At first, it was just lunch. She stopped coming home for it. Said she was running errands or too swamped. The kids noticed first. Our youngest, Ava, asked, "Why doesn't mommy come for lunch anymore?" I didn't know what to say. Then it was the way she touched me, or rather, how she didn't. The subtle distance, like her body was always just a little further away than it used to be. Like a dancer performing for an invisible audience, never quite landing the step close to you. I tried brushing it off. I wasn't the jealous type. Or at least, I hadn't been. Until the girls' only happy hours began. Every Thursday. At first, I encouraged her. She needed a break. But then I found out there were men involved, co-workers. When I asked, she got defensive, teary. Told me she'd never cheat. Her mom had cheated on her dad, and she'd seen firsthand what it did to a family. I couldn't do that to you, Darren. To the kids, she said, her voice cracking. And for a while, I believed her. Or tried to. One night, after she'd fallen asleep on the couch with her smartwatch still on her wrist, I took a peek. My hand shook as I navigated the tiny screen. That's when I saw it, messages from someone named Ty. A co-worker. His words were clear, I meant what I said. "You're not just a fling." That line hit me like a pipe to the gut. 1,000 scenarios cascaded through my brain. Songs they dedicated to each other. Emojis. "Missing you already." I woke her up and asked. Straight out. "Who's Ty?" She blinked. Confused at first. Then crumbled. Said it was just texting. Some flirting. A few kisses. Nothing more. But I knew better. I went deeper, checked the phone records. Messages and calls, nearly every day from February through October. A pattern. A routine. And then I realized she'd given me Ty's work number once, not his personal one. She'd hidden him in plain sight. I confronted her again, this time with a lie. I said I spoke with his girlfriend and that Ty had confessed. Lena's face went pale. Eventually, she cracked. "We were together," she whispered. "It happened in his car. A few times. I don't know, maybe 20? I stopped counting. The worst part? She got pregnant. Twice. During the affair. And both times, she insisted we couldn't keep the pregnancies. I thought she was just being cautious, pragmatic even. But now I saw the truth behind her tears. I sat on the edge of the bed that night, staring into the dark. Our bedroom suddenly felt like a stranger's house. Everything had changed, and yet the room still smelled like her shampoo, like the lavender she dabbed on her wrists. And that's when it hit me, my old life, my marriage, my family, the truth was gone. There's a kind of madness that lives in the quiet hours of the morning. Those moments after the house goes still, when the dishwasher hums like a lullaby and every creak in the floor sounds like betrayal whispering from the walls. That week, I began noticing things I'd always overlooked. Her phone, 4-1. Always on silent. Always face down. The only time she held it like it meant something was when she thought I wasn't watching. And she smiled, but not the warm, sleepy smile she used to give me after Sunday naps. No, this was different. Sharper. Nervous. Giddy. The kind you give when you're being seen by someone new. One night, as I loaded the dishwasher, she always left the silverware jumbled, which drove me crazy. I found a receipt tucked behind the dish rack. It was from a bar across town. A place I didn't even know she knew existed. The date on it matched a night she'd told me she was visiting her sister. I stared at it so long, the ink seemed to bleed. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. But my heart was already packing boxes, quietly bracing for a storm. Then came the playlist. Our son, Liam, 10 years old and endlessly curious, asked Alexa to play Mommy's favorite songs. The AI pulled up a playlist I'd never seen before. Songs by artists Lena used to roll her eyes at. Soft ballads. One track caught my ear, Secret Smile. Why is this Mommy's favorite? I asked. Ava chimed in, she listens to it in the car when she picks us up late. Late? The dots started connecting. And each one felt like a pin pressing deeper into my skin. I tried to confront her gently. Made us coffee, hers with oat milk, mine black, both in the mugs we brought home from our honeymoon in Oregon. I slid the receipt across the table. Her eyes flicked down. Then up. Too fast. Like a poker player with a tell. I forgot about that, she said. It was a friend's birthday. Last minute thing. You told me you were with your sister. She was there too. Darren, are you tracking my movements now? And there it was. The deflection. The shift. Classic. I sighed. No. Just cleaning the kitchen. Found the truth by accident. She stood up, took her mug, and poured the coffee down the sink. I can't live under a microscope, she said. I almost laughed. A microscope? I hadn't even picked up the lens yet. The next day, I was folding laundry, hers, still warm from the dryer, still smelling of that lavender detergent she always insisted on. That's when I found it. A napkin tucked into the pocket of her jeans. In handwriting that wasn't hers. You light up every room. I stared at it like it was a math problem I could solve. Just then, Liam walked in holding a drawing, stick figures of me, Lena, him, and Ava. All of us smiling. The son had a face. He pointed to the biggest stick figure, me. You're the hero, Dad. And that's when I broke. Not loudly. Not like in the movies. Just a quiet, shaking sob into a pair of jeans that didn't belong to the woman I thought I married. There is a difference between suspicion of treason and its proof. The former allows you to sleep uneasily, but sleep. And the second? Then the nights disappear completely. I slept a maximum of 3 hours a day. 2 if I allowed myself to scroll through conversations, listening to what I missed the first time. So I did what any man who lost control of himself would do, I turned into an amateur detective. No cape, just a Google spreadsheet and a flashing email, and many mugs of coffee. It all started with phone records. Not just calls and messages, that was obvious. But with patterns. Time blocks. Every Wednesday between 13:15 and 14:30, she was unavailable. And every Friday night she claimed to be at yoga. However, her location history, thank you, Google Maps, showed that she was near a shopping center 3 towns over. Smoothie bar, she said once. So cool, I muttered, looking at the timestamps. I downloaded a tracking app. Nothing aggressive, just low-profile GPS synchronization. It took a few tries and a fake leak in the kitchen to distract her long enough to download it to her phone. I hated doing this. I hated how natural it felt. It was like slipping into cold water. It's shocking at first, but eventually you forget you were ever warm. Then the smoking gun appeared, or close to it. I followed her whereabouts. She said she was heading to the grocery store after work. But instead, she drove to a neighborhood I didn't know, turned into a cul-de-sac, and stayed there for an hour and 23 minutes. When she returned home, I asked her what kind of salad she bought. She blinked. What? For the salad, I said. You were in the store, right? She replied, romaine. Later, I checked the fridge. Only a week-old spring mix and a single tomato hanging there like a forgotten promise. I couldn't sleep that night. Even my old jazz records and a sip of whiskey didn't help. At 2:15 a.m., I opened a Word document and started typing. What would you do if you found out that your woman was not just cheating, but doing it methodically? I closed the laptop without saving it. The next Saturday, I made up an excuse to take the kids to my sister's house. Lena seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. She said she was going to do laundry and make a face mask. I smiled, kissed her on the cheek, drove the kids 2 blocks, and then walked back. I hid in the garage for 2 hours. Just like some ghost husband in a sitcom. But this was not a sitcom. Around noon, a white Mazda pulled up to us. Not Taya's. It was someone else's. I peeked through the crack of the garage door. He was about 30. A sloppy beard. Hooded hoodie. Confident in himself so much that my stomach curled. He didn't knock. He just walked in. Just like he had done before. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. At 31, I broke down. I went through the back door to the kitchen. Lena screamed. The guy in the hood ran away. And me? I didn't scream. I didn't swing. I just looked at her and said, "So today is laundry day?" There was no anger in my voice. It was something colder, detachment. The tone with which you read terms and conditions. Detached. Final. Non-negotiable. The guy stammered, tried to apologize. I cut him off. "It's not about you," I said. "You're just wallpaper." He left without his shoes. Lena stood barefoot on the tiles, shivering. And the strangest thing was that I laughed. Not loudly. Just a breath. A stunned exhale. "Remember when we couldn't afford a microwave?" I said. "We heated everything in the oven. It took forever. But you said it tasted better that way." She didn't answer. Her past was no longer insinuating. I don't see my woman in her anymore. If there's one thing life loves to do when you're at your lowest, it's throw a curveball so absurd it makes you wonder if a cruel sitcom writer is scripting your days. This curveball arrived at 10:32 a.m. on a Thursday. I was warming up my coffee, trying not to think about prenatal vitamins, when Lena walked into the kitchen unusually composed. "Hi," she said softly. "Can you be ready in 20 minutes? I blinked. "Ready for what?" She smiled, too gently. The kind of smile a nurse gives right before delivering bad news. "We have an appointment." "A doctor's appointment?" "Therapist." I nearly dropped my mug. "What?" "Couples therapy," she said, calm as ever. "I scheduled it last month. I just didn't want to tell you until the day before so you wouldn't change your mind." Change my mind? I hadn't even had a chance to have one. 20 minutes later, we were sitting in a compact office with sage green walls and abstract art that looked like emotional breakdowns in acrylic. The therapist's name was Marla. She had kind eyes and the voice of someone trained to defuse hostage situations. She greeted us with, "It's great to have you both here. It shows your commitment." I wanted to say, "One of us planned this behind the other's back," but I just nodded. Lena jumped in immediately. "I want to save our marriage. I know things are wrong. I know I've made mistakes. But Darren and I were fine. Weren't we?" She looked at me like a student hoping for a nod from the teacher. Marla turned to me. "Darren, what's going on with you right now?" It was the gentlest question I'd been asked in weeks, and I nearly cried from the kindness of it. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I'm angry. But not just at her. At myself. For not seeing it sooner. For not asking the right questions." Marla nodded, like she'd heard that before. Maybe 100 times. Then Lena said something unexpected. "I was thinking, if we can fix ourselves, maybe we can move forward. Even in spite of everything. Even in spite of everything." No mention of Ty. No mention of the texts, or the parking lot meetings, or the vitamins. Just everything. The session lasted an hour. I spent most of it staring at a framed quote on the wall, "Healing begins where guilt ends." On the way out, Lena tugged on my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. When we got home, she lay down. Said the therapy had exhausted her. I stayed in the kitchen, trying to untangle what had just happened. Then my phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number. One message. "You don't know the half of what she did. If you want answers, meet me tonight. 7 p.m. at Barlow's Cafe." No name. No follow-up. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding like a drum. I had no idea who it was. But I was sure of one thing. I needed to find out. Barlow's Cafe was the kind of place where nobody made a fuss. An old converted house with creaky floorboards and the smell of cinnamon baked into the wallpaper. I sat by the window at 6:55 p.m., hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of decaf I hadn't asked for. My eyes flicked toward the door every time it opened. At 7:03, he walked in. You ever meet someone and instantly know they're the type to ruin something without meaning to? That was this guy. Mid-30s. Scruffy but styled, in that carefully casual way, like he dressed down to seem sincere. He spotted me and walked over with the ease of someone who wasn't nervous enough. Darren, he asked. Yeah. He slid into the seat across from me. Name's Caleb. I work with Lena. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, he went on. But I figured, if it were me, I'd want to know. That sentence sent my pulse into overdrive. Know what, exactly? Caleb took a breath. I've worked with her for 2 years. At first, I thought it was harmless, some joking around. But then it got complicated. There's a group text. Ty. Lena. Me. A few others. But she and Ty, there's something different there. Always has been. He pulled out his phone. I saved some of the messages. Screenshots. In case things went sideways. I stared at the screen. And there they were. Ty, you're the only reason I get out of bed some mornings. Lena, don't say that. You'll make me fall harder. Ty, too late for me. You already ruined me for anyone else. My fingers curled into fists beneath the table. The words were bright. Casual. Intimate in that sickly sweet way people talk when they pretend their choices are fate. Caleb swiped again. Lena, he doesn't even look at me like you do. Ty, he doesn't see you. Not like I do. They've been meeting up, Caleb said quietly. Not just once or twice. It's been going on for a while. Close to a year, maybe more. I sat back, staring at the cup in front of me. The cinnamon scent, once warm and nostalgic, now made my stomach turn. Why tell me now? I asked. Caleb shifted in his seat. Because I saw her crying in the break room last week. Said she thought you knew. Said she was scared. And then she said something that scared me. She said she wasn't sure which man she wanted. I stood up. Not because I was done, but because if I didn't, I might say something I'd regret. Caleb looked up at me with a mix of pity and relief. Thanks, I muttered, turning to leave. Outside, the cold hit me like a slap. I walked without thinking. Around the block. Down a back alley. Past the park bench where Lena and I once took photos of the kids tossing leaves into the wind. My phone buzzed. Lena, where are you? I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I scrolled back through Caleb's screenshots. There it was. One last message, dated weeks ago. Ty, I wish we'd met first. Lena, me too. Every day I wish that. And just like that, the last piece of hope in me gave out. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I lay on the couch and watched the fan spinning in slow, hypnotic circles, as if trying to lull me into forgetting. But forgetting was no longer possible. Around 4 in the morning, I heard her come downstairs. She stood on the edge of the living room like a child afraid of the dark. Darren, she whispered. I didn't look at her. Are you serious? A long pause. What did you mean? I turned around. Met her gaze, the way Ty apparently did. That you wish you'd met him first. The color faded from her face. A silence hung between us, tight and thin, like a rubber band on the verge of snapping. She began, then stopped. I didn't know you saw it. I saw everything. She crouched on the arm of the chair, as if she couldn't bring herself to come closer. I never meant to hurt you, she said, barely catching her breath. I laughed. A low, bitter sound, hollow and harsh. You didn't trip and fall in a year-long affair, Lena. She flinched. Good. At least that meant she still felt something. I was lonely, she said. You were working all the time. The kids, the stress, I felt like we weren't living in the same world anymore. Don't, I said. Don't make excuses for it. Not today. She wiped her eyes, but there were no tears. Maybe she wasn't crying anymore. Maybe I hadn't either. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the way she looked at me now, like I was a stranger wearing her husband's face. You could have left, I said. You could have told me before things got this far. I didn't want to destroy our family. You already did. We sat in the semi-darkness, two ghosts haunted by the same memory. Everything between us had turned to ash, and neither of us knew what to do with the remains. I want to make things right, she whispered. I stood up. Walked over to the window. The sky was just beginning to lighten, taunting me with its quiet foreboding of a new day. You can't fix something you never respected, I said. You can't blow up a bridge and then ask me to help you cross it. She didn't say anything back. Just sat there with her arms wrapped around herself as if trying to hold something back. I went upstairs and closed the bedroom door behind me. Not to fall asleep, but to finally be alone in the silence she'd filled with lies. A week passed. Then another. We lived like polite strangers in the same house, coexisting in silence, trading brief glances and shorter words. The kids noticed. Of course they did. Ava started drawing pictures with two homes in them. Liam stopped asking why we didn't eat dinner together anymore. I stayed in the guest room. It was too small, too cold, too clean. Like a room that had never been lived in. Fitting, I guess. I didn't cry. Not until the third Sunday. It was Ava's school play. First grade, low stakes. She played a squirrel. Her costume was too big, and her tail kept sliding off. But she was glowing. That's my dad, she shouted into the audience when she saw me. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Then I looked at Lena. She was sitting 3 rows ahead, alone. And for a moment, something cracked. Not in my chest. In her eyes. She smiled, soft, hopeful, and mouthed, "Thank you for coming." And all at once I hated that I loved her in that second. After the play, Ava ran up and hugged me so hard I lost my breath. "Did I do good?" she asked. "You were perfect," I said, voice trembling. Then she said, "Mommy cried when she saw you clap." Later that night, I found Lena sitting on the edge of our bed, clutching an old photo album. Our honeymoon in Oregon. Her hair was shorter then. I had more laugh lines. We looked like two people just about to start something worth keeping. She looked up. "Can we talk?" I sat down, not close, but not far. "I know I broke everything," she said. "And I know you don't owe me anything. But I miss us. Not the perfect parts. The real ones. The mess. The mornings. The way you used to hum when you made pancakes. I miss being your home." I stared at the floor. "You burned the home down." "I know." She reached into the album and pulled out a letter. Folded. Yellowed with time. "I wrote this after we got engaged," she said. "And I never gave it to you. I found it last night." She handed it to me, then stood and walked out of the room without another word. I unfolded it slowly. "Darren. If you're reading this, it means I never found the right time to say how terrified I am of not being enough for you. You make me feel like I can do anything, but sometimes that makes me afraid I'll fail you. I don't want to be perfect. I just want to be yours." My hands shook. Then came the knock at the door. I opened it. It was Ty. He looked wrecked. Eyes bloodshot. Hair disheveled. Not the confident man I imagined. "I need to talk to you," he said. "It's not what you think." And just like that, the ground shifted again. I stared at Ty for a long time. Too long. The kind of pause that strips someone bare. "I need to talk to you," he repeated. "It's not what you think." "Really?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "Because I think you slept with my wife for nearly a year. I think you were in my house, in my life, while I was breaking my back to keep it all standing. And I think you ruined everything. Ty winced. You're right. I deserve that. All of it. But there's more to it. There always is, I muttered. We stood there on the porch, bathed in porch light and late-night chill. The same place I used to read bedtime stories under a blanket of stars. Now it felt like a courtroom. I ended it with her, he said. Weeks ago. Before you found out. Congratulations. She didn't want to stop. She begged me not to. But I knew it was wrong. I never expected it to go that far. It started as venting. Just co-workers talking. Then she told me things about you. He hesitated, and I didn't stop him. I needed to hear every ugly word. She said you were distant. Cold. That you hadn't touched her in months. She made me feel like I was saving her from a lonely life. But then I saw it, she wasn't lonely. She was bored. And when I tried to pull away, she told me she was pregnant. My knees nearly buckled. She said it might be mine, he continued. But then she said she couldn't keep it. That you wouldn't understand. That it would ruin everything. I felt like I was drowning. So she got rid of it, Ty said quietly. And then she came to work the next day like nothing happened. That's when I knew. She wasn't grieving. She was relieved. Silence filled the space between us, thick and poisonous. I didn't come here to make things worse, Ty said. I came to say I'm sorry. And to tell you that you deserve better than both of us. Then he walked away. No drama. No final insult. Just a broken man disappearing into the night. I stood there a while, letting the air bite my skin. I thought about the way Lena cried at Ava's play. I thought about the letter. I thought about every time I'd kissed her forehead while she slept, believing we were safe. When I went back inside, Lena was standing in the kitchen, holding 2 mugs of tea. I saw him leave, she said. Did he say anything? Enough. She set the mugs down. You don't have to stay. I wouldn't blame you. But I wasn't ready to make that call. Not yet. Not while I still smelled lavender on the staircase. Not while Ava was still drawing pictures of squirrels and Liam still wanted me to help with his science fair volcano. Do you love him? I asked. She blinked. Then shook her head. No. I loved how he made me feel. That's different. And it was. Different. But not better. I need time, I said. Not promises. Not apologies. Just space. Okay. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood there, like 2 statues with too many cracks to glue back together. But something about that moment felt real. Honest. Finally. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. The week after Ty's visit felt like falling into a hole with no bottom. I kept waiting to hit something solid: anger, resolve, even peace, but all I got was the slow ache of freefall. The house stayed quiet. Too quiet. Lena moved like a ghost, careful not to disturb anything. The kids picked up on the silence and mirrored it, like grief was contagious. One night, I heard Ava whisper to Liam, "Is Daddy going away?" And Liam, "God," he answered, "I think maybe he already did." That broke me. I packed a bag the next day. Just clothes. Toothbrush. Laptop. No idea where I was going. I didn't leave a note. Didn't slam a door. I just walked out. The motel I found was 20 minutes away, overlooking a parking lot and a gas station that never closed. I picked it because it was anonymous. Because it didn't care why I was there. On the second night, I opened my laptop and stared at a blank document. The cursor blinked like it was waiting for permission. I started writing, just fragments. Her laugh in that Oregon diner. The one with the mismatched mugs. The way Ava used to fall asleep in Lena's arms like she was the safest place in the world. That night we danced in the kitchen with no music, just the sound of rain and the smell of burnt popcorn. I wrote until the words stopped meaning anything. Then I closed the laptop and cried like a man who finally understood it was over. On the 5th day, I drove home. Not because I forgave her. But because Liam had a science fair, and he'd made a volcano. Said he wanted me to push the baking soda button. When I walked through the school gym, he lit up like I hadn't missed a beat. "You came," he said. "Of course I came," I said. But Lena didn't. She was supposed to. Ava was there with her teacher. She hugged me tight and whispered, "Mom's been crying in the car a lot." I found Lena in the parking lot, sitting in the front seat with her forehead pressed to the steering wheel. I knocked. She didn't look up, just opened the door slowly. "You didn't come inside," I said. "I didn't think I deserved to," she answered. I sat down next to her. We didn't speak for a long time. Then she said something that felt like a knife to the ribs. "If you leave for good, I won't stop you. But please, don't let them think it's their fault." She looked at me then, broken wide open. "I know I ruined everything. But they still need their dad. Even if they don't have their parents together anymore." She wasn't begging. She was just telling the truth. That night, I moved back in not to be her husband again, but to be their father. I slept in the guest room. The lavender scent on the stairs was fading. The bed didn't feel so cold anymore. And still, every night, I wondered what forgiveness would even look like. If it was possible. If I even wanted it. But I stayed. Because love doesn't disappear. Sometimes it just changes shape. It didn't happen all at once. There was no cinematic swell of music. No teary reunion in the rain. Just mornings that stopped hurting as much. A smile from Ava that didn't carry the weight of everything unsaid. Liam asking if I wanted to build a new volcano, a better one, with red lights and everything. Healing is slow. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't always come with answers. But it began in the small things. I kept sleeping in the guest room. Even after Lena offered the bed back. Even after she stopped asking. That wasn't punishment. It was a boundary. A line drawn not out of anger, but out of self-respect. We started therapy. Together and separately. At first, I sat through the sessions like I was watching a car crash in slow motion. But then something shifted. Lena stopped trying to explain the past. She started listening. Really listening. One afternoon, she said something I'll never forget. "I'm not trying to earn you back. I'm just trying to become someone who should have had you in the first place." That's when I realized I didn't hate her. I hated who I'd been while trying to hold it all together alone. I hated the silence that had grown between us long before Ty ever showed up. We won't ever go back to who we were. That couple is gone. But maybe that's okay. One morning, Ava crawled into the guest bed and whispered, "Daddy, can you live in the big room again? It's warmer when you're close." And for the first time, I said, "Maybe." One day. Lena made breakfast that morning. Pancakes, just like the ones we used to dance around. She hummed a song I hadn't heard in years. We didn't talk much. Just ate. Together. In the quiet. There's a peace that comes not from fixing everything, but from knowing what you'll never allow again. What you'll protect at all costs. I still love her. But now, I love myself too. Forgiveness didn't come wrapped in a bow. It came in slow, uncertain steps toward a future that may never look like the past. But might still be something beautiful. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But I know I made it through it. And for the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. The end.